Smoke curls from chimneys in New Haven, curling into the cool morning air, mingling with the scent of wet soil, wood fires, and the faint sweetness of orchards nearby. A boy named Charles Goodyear sits on the edge of a wooden bench, rolling a lump of sticky gum between his fingers. He watches the world with wide eyes. The blacksmith's hammer sparks in rhythm. Sparrows flutter over cobblestones. A cart creaks past laden with barrels of tar and apples. He notices everything: the bend of a twig underfoot, the way sunlight glints off a puddle, the subtle difference in smell when wax melts near a candle. To other children, he is odd, asking endless questions, tinkering with chemicals, metals and wax in a small corner of his father's shop. But Charles barely notices. His curiosity pulls him forward, every sensation and observation a tiny thread weaving towards something bigger, something no one else can yet see. Even as a child he begins to sense the stubbornness of materials, how they resist, yield, snap back or break. Each small experiment, each careful touch, gives him joy and frustration in equal measure. It is here, among cobblestones, carts and candles, that the first seeds of obsession are planted, ready to grow into a lifetime of relentless pursuit. The bell jingles as Charles rushes up the stairs to his father's hardware store. The smell of iron, oil and sawdust fills his nose, mingling with the faint, acrid tang of chemical powders stacked in jars. He runs his fingers over glass bottles filled with strange liquids, lumps of wax and scraps of copper, imagining what happens when heat or pressure is applied. Candlelight flickers across shelves lined with tools, tiny sparks catching his eye. Charles barely notices, absorbed in testing a piece of wax. He rolls it, kneads it, watches how it stretches, how it resists, how it snaps back. Every small success, every failure feeds a hunger he cannot satisfy. At home, he hides experiments under floorboards and in drawers, guarding them as precious secrets. Sometimes the wax refuses to behave, sticking stubbornly, cracking or melting too fast. He groans in frustration, rubbing soot from his fingers, but the fascination never fades. The world is full of puzzles, and Charles is determined to see how every piece moves and bends. He walks the streets of Boston and Hartford, carrying lumps of rubber in coat pockets, visiting stores and workshops. Candlelight in small hotel rooms illuminates blackened hands and pages filled with notes and sketches. Each experiment begins with hope and ends with disappointment. Rubber melts too quickly, sticks to surfaces, refuses to stretch properly. Merchants scoff at him, bankers dismiss him. Meals are skipped, sleep is minimal. Clothes are ruined from spills and burns. Yet Charles persists. He kneads, folds, stretches, heats, and tests the rubber over candle flames and small irons. Each failure a lesson, each small improvement a thrill. He journals obsessively, noting every temperature, every fold, every reaction. He begins to sense patterns, how heat affects elasticity, how sulfur changes behaviour. Each step, small or large, is a march forward. He sacrifices comfort, security, and sometimes even dignity for the chance to understand the stubborn material he has made his life's focus. In a cramped attic, smoke curls from a pot of rubber over candlelight. Charles stirs and folds, kneads and presses. Yet again the rubber fails to behave. It cracks, bubbles, melts unevenly. He slams a spoon down in frustration, coughing from the acrid fumes. Each failure weighs on him, but he cannot stop. Days blur into nights. His hands blister, clothes blackened and sticky, eyes bloodshot. Friends and family grow concerned, warning him about obsession and health, but he cannot listen. He is learning, experimenting, obsessed. Every tiny success is a fire in the dark. He begins to glimpse the potential, resilience, elasticity, strength. Every failure is just a step closer to discovery. Money has run out. Meals are skipped, sleep is short. Family and friends plead, worried for him, but obsession drives him onward. One evening, a batch reacts differently. A tiny bubble holds its shape. A stretch resists breaking. Hope surges. He repeats the experiment dozens of times, refining, testing, observing. Charles needs a lump of rubber, sulfur dust, clinging to his fingers. He presses it against a heated iron plate, then lifts it, watching, holding his breath. The rubber stretches, longer than before, but still snaps back unevenly. He tries again, adding a tiny amount of sulfur, folding, stretching, heating, pressing. The room smells of burnt sugar and chemicals. Sweat drips from his forehead, blackened fingers trembling. His heart hammers with anticipation and fear. He knows he's on the verge of something extraordinary. Another test. The rubber bends, stretches, and snaps back perfectly. He freezes, eyes wide, disbelief clashing with exhilaration. Could it be? He tests it again and again, every time confirming the transformation. Candlelight flickers across soot-stained walls, shadows dancing, as if celebrating with him. His lungs ache from smoke, hands sticky and blistered. He laughs aloud, trembling with exhaustion and triumph. Hours pass, experiments repeated endlessly. He notes every temperature, every ratio, every fold, every reaction. Each success is fleeting but undeniable. Outside, New York sleeps, unaware that in a small, cluttered workshop, a stubborn, sticky material has been tamed, its future stretching far beyond these walls. The courtroom is heavy with tension. Charles stands before the judge, blackened hands gripping a small piece of vulcanized rubber. Lawyers murmur, rivals glare, and the faint smell of ink and candle smoke fills the air. He stretches the rubber, presses it, folds it, demonstrating its resilience. Opposing counsel shout, accuse him of claiming what is not his. Sweat prickles his brow, heart hammering. Days turn into weeks. He pawns tools, scrapes coins together, skips meals, sleeps in short bursts. Court victories are partial. Losses sting bitterly. Rivals copy his methods. Patents are challenged repeatedly. Lawyers demand testimony. Bankers refuse help. Charles grows gaunt. His hands blister, eyes bloodshot, skin smeared with soot and chemical dust. Every success in court is tempered by exhaustion. Nights are long, experiments relentless. He remembers the smell of melted rubber, the acrid tang of sulfur, the sensation of heat and stretch in his palms. Each trial, each setback, each sleepless night is paid for in pain and persistence. Even outside the courtroom, the world challenges him. Factories ignore patents, merchants hesitate to invest, competitors whisper behind closed doors. Yet Charles persists, driven by obsession, pride, and the knowledge that he has discovered something the world cannot yet fully grasp. Every folding, pressing, stretching motion in the workshop mirrors the stretching of his patience, the bending of his spirit, the resilience of his genius. Factories hum, the clatter of wheels and machinery blending with the scent of heated rubber. Charles walks quietly among them, soot and sulphur clinging to his coat. Workers glance at him, nodding in respect. Engineers whisper his name, marvelling at the durability and flexibility of his material. Finally, recognition arrives, but not the wealth, not the ease, not the rest he deserves. Letters praise his ingenuity, describe new innovations built on his vulcanized rubber. Some rivals grudgingly acknowledge his genius, yet the toll of decades of obsession weighs heavily. Candlelight experiments still consume evenings, but each movement is slower, more laboured. Exhaustion wraps around him like a shadow. He reflects on sleepless nights, burnt fingers, failed batches, courtroom battles and financial ruin. Pride and sorrow mingle. Court disputes continue in the background, some resolved, others lingering. Every courtroom visit is a strain, blackened hands demonstrating, sweat on his brow, heart racing with tension. Yet each partial victory is a small balm for years of struggle. His health fails. He coughs, wheezes, skin pale, body frail. Yet he continues to test, to fold, to knead, to measure. The rubber responds as he taught it, enduring beyond his weakened frame. Charles Goodyear dies in New York, worn by relentless pursuit, exhaustion, and financial hardship. Courts continue to hum with disputes over his patents, but the material he perfected stretches, bends, and endures, touching lives across the globe. Factories, vehicles, clothing, all bear the invisible mark of his genius. Even in death, the legacy is tangible. The world bends, stretches, and endures with his invention. A testament to a man whose obsession, failures, triumphs, and sacrifices transformed a stubborn, sticky material into a foundation of modern industry. He is gone. His body returned to the earth in New York, but his mind, his vision, his obsession endures.